Hi everyone, Tim here with TC Home Inspections. Today's topic is mold. What you should know about mold before you buy that next property. Well, of all the questions we get from our clients, one of the main ones that we get over and over again is, does my home have a mold problem? So that is something that we hear all the time from many clients, and what we want to do as an inspection company is eliminate those concerns best that we can. So the first thing we want to do when we evaluate every property is do a thorough mold evaluation. The first thing we want to know is there a mold problem in this home? And secondary to that, we want to know how significant is that mold issue? Keep in mind, and I'll give you my disclaimer now, so I'm in my office right now making this video, and there's a good chance I am inhaling mold spores because mold is everywhere. Wherever you are, if you're inside of a building, there's a good chance you're breathing mold as well. The main thing to know, in most cases, most molds are not making us sick. They are things that we are around 24/7, 365. It's part of our natural environment. Most molds don't make us sick. However, if you talk about a building, an enclosed structure, and in the right environment, mold spores can grow very quickly and affect your health. So we do a couple of things. We want to know, for example, number one, do you have any health concerns that we should know about? Very common concerns that make people more sensitive to mold would be, number one, really bad allergies or asthma. Those things, if people have them, we have learned over the years that they can be very sensitive to mold. The other things we do is, as an inspection company, we're looking for the number one cause of mold, and it is water or moisture intrusion. I will often tell my clients that in most cases, the home doesn't have a mold problem unless it has a water problem. You need three things to really have mold grow quickly in a building. Number one is oxygen. You have to have moisture and a food source. And that food source can be something as simple as drywall. It could be plumbing. It could be wood. Anything that mold spore can grow and populate on is a great area for mold growth. So as we go through a property, our number one concern for mold and for structural concerns as well is water. So I'm going to go down a list right now, things that I jotted down, things that we commonly look for, things that really help mold to grow quickly. And I'm just going to go through them right now. And these are things you should be aware of. So the first thing is, anywhere in a home where you would have standing water that is stagnant, you can have a lot of mold growth very quickly. And the first one is, do you have a sump pump in that home? Do you have a crock containing water that's just sitting there that can allow mold to grow? So that's the first thing we're going to look at. The other thing is, are there any leaks in that home? And the things that I'm talking about are roof leaks, plumbing leaks, anything like that that can feed mold growth. The next thing we're going to be looking at is roof issues. How old is that roof? When we evaluate that roof, we want to get underneath it in the roof deck, in the attic space. We want to make sure that roof is dry because we commonly find mold growth in attic spaces. The other area that's very common to find mold is in a basement or a crawl space where the environment is perfect for mold growth. One very common area that we find mold issues is bathrooms, because people will take long warm showers or baths, so they're creating the perfect environment for mold growth. And in a lot of older homes, it's very common to not find adequate ventilation. So in older homes, we want to make sure that you have a vent in place, an exhaust fan that is actually vented to the exterior of the home. And the way we do that is, when we do an outside inspection, we can see the vent on the exterior, or in the attic space, we want to make sure that ductwork extends properly to the outside of the home. Very important. And then we always want to find out if there's been any recent structural changes to the home, any additions, anything that has been repaired, because those are areas we commonly find mold issues also. If anything's been adjusted that will allow moisture in that house, that's important to know. So those are just a few things that we look for with every property. With every property, we do what's called a mold evaluation, not to be confused with a mold test. And by definition, a mold test is a state certified test. And so at the end of a mold evaluation, when we've gone through the entire house, if we do find what looks like to be excessive mold growth, we will consult with our clients and we will ask them if they would like that mold that we identified as a mold that is extensive. We will ask them if they want that mold tested. And so that gets us to the next portion of this video. What kind of mold tests are commonly performed? Well, keep in mind that in most cases, in most homes that we inspect, and the operative word here is most because there's always outliers, but in most homes we inspect, there is not a mold issue unless there is a water issue. So again, water is the #1 area of concern that we have when we evaluate a property for mold. But if we do find mold and it's extensive, we'll identify it, we will tell you about it, show it to you in many cases, but then we offer 2 different types of mold tests. And we do these on a regular basis. The first one is a simple swab test. And when I say a swab test, you may identify that as something you did in grade school or high school biology class. And basically all it is a surface test. If we identify mold growth on a wall or an appliance, for example, we will take a cotton swab, we will swab it, and then we will send it off to a state certified laboratory where they will actually culture that in like a petri dish. They will grow it, and then we'll find out exactly what mold spore is present on that surface. That's the first type of test that we do, and again, that's for a surface, a visual mold growth. For many clients that have issues like asthma or allergies, we can also offer what's called a air quality test. And an air quality test is basically the ability that we have to extract mold spores from the air in the house somewhere. It could be in a kitchen, in a bathroom, anywhere there's moisture present. And then we also do an outside ambient air test. And when we do an air quality test, we're actually extracting mold spores from the air, and then we provide a state licensed result, a form, if you will, that basically breaks down the mold spores present, and then more importantly than just the mold spores, but how elevated are those mold spores. And that's really important, the elevation of those mold spores, because many times people can be exposed to very common mold spores. For example, when we do a mold spore test, we often find things like Aspergillus and Penicillium. Those are found in almost every home that we inspect when we perform a mold test. But the main concern is even those common mold spores elevated to a certain degree can really affect people that have allergies or asthma. So those are 2 types of mold spore tests that we do. Again, a swab test for a localized identified growth on a structure, and also an air quality test that extracts mold spores from the air, breaks it down, and we provide an analysis of the mold spores present. So those are things that we look for during a home inspection on every home. Water intrusion is key. The other thing we do is if we do find an excessive mold growth, whether it be in the attic, the foundational areas, wherever it is, we will often ask the client if they want a state certified mold test to be performed, and we will do that as well. So those are a few things to consider in regards to mold. I have to tell you that the majority of homes that we inspect do not have mold issue, but the caveat here is everyone responds differently to mold spores. And depending on your health, depending on your experience in previous homes you've lived in, you may want a mold test to be performed. Well, this is Tim with TC Home Inspections. This has been a very brief video on mold spores, some things you should look out for. But again, when you think mold, think water. And as an inspection company, we are going to identify any water intrusion that we can. We're going to recommend, #1, stop that water intrusion, and then clean those mold spores, get them tested if needed, and then in most cases you'll have a great home. So if you have any additional questions, let me know. Again, this is Tim with TC Home Inspections. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and I'll be looking forward to you on our next video.